In this video, let's look at how to add and subtract fractions where the denominators are different. So here is a question. How much is 1/3 plus 1/12? So this is a 1/3 and this is a 1/12. We have already looked at how to add and subtract fractions where the denominators are the same. That is, the size of the piece is the same. But here we have completely different size pieces. It's like adding watermelons and apples. So let's think about how we can make them the same size pieces. If I take this 1/3 and split it into two equal parts, I now have 1/6. And if I now take each of these 1/6 and split it into two equal parts, I now have 1/12. And you notice that this piece is the same size as this piece. So let's think about it. I started off with a 1/3 and I made them into 12ths, and a 1/3 is equal to 4/12. So adding the 1/3 plus 1/12 is the same as adding 4/12 plus 1/12. And we already know how to add fractions when the denominator is the same. We keep the denominators same and simply add the two numerators, and that is equal to 5/12. So 1/3 plus 1/12 equals 5/12. Let's look at another problem. How much is 7/12 plus 4/15? So in the earlier problem, when we had to make the thirds into 12ths, it was fairly straightforward. But how do we find a common denominator for 12ths and 15ths? Is there a systematic way to do it? So here is the problem. 7/12 plus 4/15. What we need is one number that is a multiple of 12 and a multiple of 15. So we need a common multiple. And the best common multiple is the least common multiple. So let me write that down. Least common multiple, also known as LCM. So let's figure out how to find the LCM of 12 and 15. So we have 12 and 15. 3 is a common factor to both 12 and 15. So if I factor out the 3, I am left with a 4 and a 5. And there is no factor that's common to both 4 and 5 other than 1. So we know that we can find the LCM, which is the product of 3, 4 and 5. So the product of 3, 4 and 5 is 60. So the LCM is 60. Now that we have figured out the LCM, which is 60, that is our common denominator. So the next step is to find equivalent fractions for 7/12 and 4/15. So let's do that. 7/12 equals, now we want the denominator to be 60. So that's 12 times 5. And if I multiply my denominator by 5, I'll also multiply my numerator by 5. And that is equal to 35/60ths. And 4/15, again we want our denominator to be 60, which we can get by multiplying by 4. And I'll also multiply the numerator by 4, and that is equal to 16/60ths. So let's now add the two. So 7/12 plus 4/15 is the same as adding 35/60ths plus 16/60ths. And since the denominator is the same, we can simply add the numerators, and that is equal to 51/60ths. So now we have added these two and got 51/60ths. And so the next step is to see if we can simplify 51/60ths. So 51/60ths, we know that 3 is a factor that's common to both 51 and 60. So if I divide out the 3 from both the denominator and the numerator, I am left with 17/20ths. And there is no factor now that's common to both 17 and 20. So 7/12 plus 4/15 is equal to 51/60ths, which can be simplified to 17/20ths. Let's review the steps for adding fractions with unlike denominators. So here are the steps. The first step is to find a common denominator, and ideally the least common multiple or the LCM of the denominators is the best common denominator. The second step is, once you have the common denominator, generate equivalent fractions so that all the fractions have the same denominator. And the third step is to add the numerators while keeping the denominator the same. The fourth step is what you would do for any fraction operation, is to express your answer in the simplest form. Let's now look at a subtraction problem. So here is the problem, 5/6 minus 3/8. The steps for subtracting fractions are the same as the steps for adding fractions. So the first step is to find the least common multiple of 6 and 8. If I factor out the 2, I'm left with 3 and 4, and now there is no more common factors. So the LCM is 2 times 3 times 4, which is equal to 24. The second step is to generate equivalent fractions for 5/6 and 3/8. So 5/6 is the same as 20/24, and 3/8 is the same as 9/24. And now that the denominators are the same, we can simply subtract the numerators, that is 20 minus 9 equals 11/24. So 5/6 minus 3/8 equals 11/24.